That night, almost a full 2 hours after they first stumbled back into the house, Lush flashes an unseen smile at an exhausted Suzaku, brushing the hair out of his eyes. He waits until the hour changes, and then he swings his legs over the bed, retrieves his clothes, and dresses mutely. He doesn't bother tying Suzaku up tonight, because the code is a marvelous thing, and it's not this that fuels his steps as he exits the bedroom, making his way downstairs. It takes far too long to lug 2 of the boxes up into the dining room, but he manages eventually, because the root cellar is just that, a root cellar, and while it's more than adequate to store all of these things, it doesn't allow for much else. It doesn't allow him to work. Lush supposes that's what he's doing, as he brings out the most recent newspaper, 2.5 years' worth. He places the stacks onto the other chair, and skims through them chronologically, a pair of scissors and a pencil by his side. There, quickly exhausting the large surface of the table, he builds a crude timeline of news clippings and annotations, the world, 2 years ago, 23 months ago, 22, and so on. Intermission. A feature article from a newspaper dated March 1st, 2021. A young girl opened up about her experiences with refrain, how it tore her family apart. Her mother, especially, suffered the most. But she was past that now, and that was all that mattered. 8 lines from the bottom, the interviewer asked her how long it took for her mother to recover completely, to which she replied, after some deliberation, "I'd say 12 months, give or take." Lush puts this carefully aside. He gets up from the table at 4 a.m, only to withdraw an old map of the world from the cellar and bring it back upstairs. He spreads it over the table, and empties the pincushion from the sewing kit in the second drawer, marking cities accordingly. He arranges the clippings and looks for trends. He makes sketches and notes all over the oceans until the pencil is blunt, and he has to sharpen it with a knife. And again. And so on. At some point he thinks back on all the phone calls he shared with Nunley, noticing how much older she sounded every time. He thinks of merchants exchanging portents of doom. And most of all, he thinks of Suzaku. The king of clubs was Alexander the Great. His mother believed him destined for greatness even while still in her womb, while others believed his father may have been Zeus himself. Trained by Leonidas, and then by Aristotle, Alexander was a king at 20. By 30, he had created one of the largest empires in ancient history. His desire to reach the ends of the world and the great outer sea. He would ultimately wind up falling short. But failing to reach such a lofty goal did nothing to undermine Alexander's brilliance. In battle, he suffered not a single defeat, which is why he would go down in history as one of the greatest commanders of all times. And he thinks of Suzaku, when he steps back and looks over his handiwork just before sunrise, going over all the implications in his head. And for better or worse, he understands. The sun burns, in much the same ways as it did when he first got here, when the plane arrives. "For what it's worth," Lush quips, "I had no idea she'd even taken something from you, much less something that important. I don't approve, but—" He shrugs, and there's a hint of remorse in his eyes. "I would have stopped her." "Thanks." Suzaku allows himself a small smile, pushing up his sunglasses. The sunlight is too bright, blinding off the sides of the plane, but soon there will be none of this, so he figures he'll take as much as he can get. "I don't resent her for it, by the way. It's fine." Noble." They both watch as the plane finally touches the ground, but just as Suzaku begins to walk towards it, he feels a hand on his arm. "Suzaku." Lush looks at him with gravity, and his grip tightens when Suzaku acknowledges him. "Stop this, alright? Do it slowly, take as long as you need to wean yourself off of it safely. But get clean." Suzaku breathes a sigh and looks away. He supposed he ought to be surprised Lush waited until the very last minute to tell him this at all. "But I'll try," he says weakly. "No, I want you to promise. Because—" He looks up at that, and when he does, Lush shuts his jaw. His eyes are burning, but it's not the same as last night, nowhere near the same. "In a year, I will send for you again, and things will be different, so I'll need you at your peak. Do you understand?" For several seconds, Suzaku just stands there, unable to do just that. But comprehension dawns eventually, and when it does, he swallows hard. He tries to fight back the sudden surge of hope, if only because he can no longer deny it for what it is. "You mean—" Luge smiles, but warm as it is, he sees traces of the other man's all too familiar smirk in there somewhere, and his voice drops until it is barely audible. Last night, you wished for a second chance, didn't you? I accept it. That Geass. Suzaku takes a breath. He eyes part of the sigil peeking out from the top of Lucius's collar, and then he nods, fisting his hand and bringing it up to his chest. But he doesn't say those 3 words, because they no longer apply. Not anymore. Or, not yet. He doesn't know who started the kiss. He only knows that it is slow, deep, fervent. It is thank you, and promise, and goodbye, and so many other things at once. It is over the moment the engines die. And the knave of clubs? That was Lancelot. 3. This is the number of lobes on the suit. Also, the number of forms it can take. Clovers, flowers, and in some countries, acorns. And the number tied to the clubs. 3. This number is tied intimately to how we perceive our universe, and perhaps because of this, repays all the superstition and folklore in which it is immersed. It is either lucky, 3rd time's the charm, or not, 3rd light, and 1, 2, 3, gold, silver, death. It is invaluable for synchrony and for balance. In both cases, the least required to accomplish either. 3. The number of seconds C2 lingers by the plane as Suzaku approaches, before making her way to Lucius's side. There, she gives Suzaku several short, bland words that Lucius can't hear, but he hopes they approximate an apology. 3. The number of minutes it takes before the jet is finally airborne. They watch its ascent until it disappears into the clouds above, and in that time, Lucius finds himself reliving everything that took place over this past week. Every word, every lair, every caress, every laugh, every nightmare, every kiss. 3. The number of times Lucius lied in 7 days, and the number of times it should have hurt less. So, C2 thrusts a rat blondel at him without saying hello, nod curved to her lips. This was unexpected. What's this I hear about a year? Lucius nods shortly, peeling the cloth away, a new chessboard still in its box, pieces in glass and black marble, before breaking into a slow smile. And all time is stolen time.